not everybody is meant to like you. And that's another way that I've overcome this, is to go, look, not everybody's going to be in your court.
Hello, and welcome to this episode of CallumConnects Micro-Podcast. Our guest today is Mila Grigg. Mila is the CEO and founder of MODA Image and Brand Consulting. After 20 years of building company and personal brands, her book, Forged by Fire, How to Develop an Unstoppable Personal Brand, is the personal brand Bible of our time.
So a hurdle I have faced as an entrepreneur truly is just the idea of fear. Fear about everything. Fear of taking chances and risks and putting yourself out there, and fear of telling people you know how to do something when you're still worried that you don't know how to do it in your early years. Fear of not making enough money. Fear of not having enough clients in the pipeline. Fear of getting it wrong, making a mistake, saying the wrong thing, putting yourself out on social. Just absolute fear. For me, overcoming that is finding things that I'm more afraid of and using that as sort of a barometer for each one of my decisions. I have much more fear of not being able to support my family, much more fear of not being able to put my girls through college if they choose to do so, much more fear of not living out my God-given purpose by being able to work in this industry and own a firm that helps people to be their best. Fear of looking back at my life at 90 and going, why didn't you do that? And you were so worried about what other people were thinking. And I can tell you at 90, I'm sure they won't be thinking about me, or the mistake I did or didn't make, or the risk I did or didn't take. So being able to keep perspective on life and being able to know that at 90 years old, regret is the only thing that I do not want. I want to take every risk and put myself out there and be vulnerable. And I will say, honestly, even with this book that I've written, it's about personal brand, but it also has a bit of my own story in it. And putting that out there was at times paralyzing, but being able to work through that and go, look, I have a greater purpose in this book. I need to be vulnerable here in order to encourage, motivate, inspire, and then give people tactical advice on how to build a brand. And if you don't share part of yourself, and if you give into the fear of, oh my gosh, what will other people think? And will they like me? Like, who cares who likes you? Not everybody is meant to like you. And that's another way that I've overcome this, is to go, look, not everybody's going to be in your court. Not everybody is going to support you. And certainly not everybody is going to like you. So being able to do that and to keep that in perspective is so important. The other piece that has helped me to overcome that is, in the Bible, it says 365 times, do not fear in one way, shape, or another. And that's one for every day of the year. And I have faith, and I know that if I work through my everyday grind and everyday process and have faith in the process and know that I have purpose, that the Lord will light the next best step. I think sometimes we get overwhelmed because we're thinking of the end, but sometimes it just takes that next best step to get you where you need to go. I often think of my grandfather. He was in a transfer camp. It was a concentration camp of a small one before the Nazis transferred him to a larger one. And one dark night, he said he snuck out. And my cousin asked him once, how did you do it? And he said, you just do it. You just go. And you have to take that next step. And I often think about him, and if he can do it, we can do it. And sometimes we think of the end result. He didn't think, my gosh, once I get through the barbed wire and past the guards, there's a river, and if I jump into that river, then, oh my gosh, I could hit a rock and I might drown, and yada, yada. And you keep, all these fears take over, and he might have stayed paralyzed by fear, and I wouldn't be here. And so, one of those stories that he has, the stories that he has gets me through. The stories that I have and my past successes get me through. So we really do have to rely on, where we've come from and look back and go, my gosh, we've taken risks before that were probably more than the ones we're afraid to take today. So really keeping in perspective, having faith, knowing that you have a greater purpose, knowing that your 90-year-old self needs to thank you when you finally get to 90, and knowing that sometimes it's just the next best step.
If you enjoyed this podcast and would like to find more inspiring information about entrepreneurs around the world doing incredible things, make your way to enterprisezone.cc.